Well, hello there. This is Larry Hayden. Welcome to the Larry Hayden podcast. Today's topic is abortion. Now, whether you are pro-abortion, pro-life, or still undecided, I sincerely hope this podcast will benefit you. As a Christian, my thoughts on abortion naturally come from the Christian viewpoint expressed by the Bible. If you have questions about God or you want to get reliable Christian answers, I heartily endorse and refer you to the website gotquestions.org. That's G-O-T, no space, questions.org. This website has answers to over 700,000 Bible questions. The website is really outstanding. I'll begin this podcast with the definition of the word abortion. An abortion is the deliberate termination of human life while it is still in the womb. This begs the question, when does life begin? The majority opinion from both biblical and medical scholars is that life begins at the moment of conception, meaning at the very moment that the sperm fertilizes the egg. In researching this podcast, I discovered some fascinating facts. For example, I was surprised to learn that the human heart is already formed by only the 18th day in the womb. If a heartbeat was used to define life, then nearly all abortions would be outlawed. And did you know that individual brain waves are detected in the body in only about 40 days? So if a brainwave activity is used to define life, that would outlaw at least a majority of abortions. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says to the prophet Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you." This scripture is fascinating because it reveals that in God's mind, life begins even before birth. Does it matter what God thinks? The awesome power possessed by God should make us give pause. For example, in the Bible, God is known by several different names, such as God, Jehovah, and Creator, but the most accurate name for God is He who causes all things to be. Now think of that. He who causes all things to be. That means that out of his mind came everything that was ever created. So when you consider the sheer power of that kind of mind, I think it's safe to say yes, if we are honest, it definitely matters what God thinks. During the time of Moses, God revealed another hint into his thoughts about abortion. God gave laws for how Israel was to be governed. Some of those laws specified penalties for different crimes. In the book of Exodus, the penalty for causing the death of an unborn child was life for life. In other words, God saw killing a child in the womb as murder. These verses support the view that preborn infants are humans, equal in importance to any other people. A common argument against the Christian stance on abortion is, what about cases of rape or incest? As difficult as it would be to become pregnant as a result of rape or incest, is the murder of a baby the solution? Two wrongs do not make a right. Intentionally killing the unborn child is not the answer. Also, keep in mind that having an abortion is a traumatic experience. It seems nonsensical to add additional trauma to the woman. Abortion will never erase the pain of rape or incest, but it may very well add to it. A child who is conceived through rape or incest is made in the image of God, the same as any other human. That child's life should be protected just as much as the life of any other human being. The circumstances of conception never determine the worth of a person or that person's future. The baby in this situation is completely innocent and should not be punished for the evil act of his or her father. Depending on the situation, the mother might choose to raise the child. If she doesn't already have a community of support, she can turn to many organizations and local churches who are prepared to walk alongside her. Or she might place the child for adoption. There are many families who are unable to have children on their own who stand ready to receive and love a child from any background. Another argument often used against the Christian stance on abortion is, what about when the life of the mother is at risk? Honestly, this is the most difficult question to answer on the issue of abortion. First, let's remember that such a situation is exceedingly rare. Dr. Landrum Shettles spelled Shettles, a pioneer in the field of in vitro fertilization, wrote, "Less than 1% of all abortions are performed to save a mother's life." Other medical professionals go further, stating that abortion is never necessary to save the mother's life. Over 1,000 OB/GYNs signed a statement in 2012 saying, in part, "As experienced practitioners and researchers in obstetrics and gynecology, we affirm that direct abortion, the purposeful destruction of the unborn child, is not medically necessary to save the life of a woman." Further, in 2019, medical leaders representing more than 30,000 doctors said that intentionally killing a late-term unborn baby in an abortion is never necessary to save a woman's life. And let's remember that God is a God of miracles. He can preserve the life of mother and her child, even in the small percentage of abortions performed to save the life of the mother. Most of those abortions can be prevented by an early induced delivery of the baby or a C-section. It's extremely rare that a baby must be actively aborted in order to save the life of the mother. Ultimately, if the life of the mother is genuinely at risk, the course of action can only be decided by the woman, her doctor, oftentimes the father of the child, and God. Any woman facing this extremely difficult situation should pray to the Lord for wisdom as to what He would have her to do. The overwhelming majority of abortions performed today involve women who simply do not want to have the baby. As I explained previously, just 1% of abortions are for the reasons of rape, incest, or risk to the mother's life. Even in these more difficult instances, abortion should never be the first option. The life of a human being in the womb is worth every effort to preserve it. Now, here are some online references to help you further on this subject of abortion. Go to youtube.com and search for the term "A Christian Response to Abortion." That's "A Christian Response to Abortion" by Greg Laurie. On Facebook, search for the page "If Not for Grace." On the internet, search for compellingtruth.org and alwaysbeready.org. And that marks the conclusion of this podcast episode. Thank you for listening, and I wish you peace always.